started like any other day. I was sitting in the back of Mr. Grayson's history class, half listening to his lecture about ancient civilizations, when our phones buzzed all at once. The sound cut through the room like a blade. That emergency alert tone. The room fell silent. I unlocked my phone. Emergency alert. Scientific anomaly detected. Scientists have discovered an interdimensional rift. Prehistoric creatures are emerging. Seek immediate shelter. Avoid waterways and unknown humanoid figures. This is not a drill. People started laughing. Is this some joke? Like one of those fake alerts? Mr. Grayson told us to put our phones away. But then the school loudspeakers crackled. A voice I didn't recognize screamed through the system. Lock all doors. Shut the blinds. Do not go outside. Creatures have breached the river perimeter. Multiple casualties reported. The feed cut into static. That's when we heard it. A low, thunderous growl. So deep it rattled the windows. People crowded around the glass to look. I should have stayed in my seat. I should have listened. In the distance, the football field was gone. Torn apart. Flooded. And something massive was crawling through the mud. Something with limbs like decayed tree trunks. Skin like the rotting leather of some ancient beast. It stood on two legs, humanoid but horribly wrong. Like some prehistoric predator that never should have existed. And behind it, dozens more, some crawling, some walking upright, some slithering like eels with gnarled, bone-like appendages. Someone screamed, because they saw us too. The creatures charged the school. Windows shattered from their roar. Students scattered, tripping over desks and each other, as one of the humanoid things slammed its body against the building. Its claws dragged across the glass, leaving deep, shrieking gouges. Get to the hallway, Mr. Grayson yelled, but he didn't make it far. One of the smaller creatures, fast and spider-like with a fleshy, snapping jaw, burst through the broken window and latched onto his face, chewing through his skin as he thrashed and screamed. Blood painted the walls. I ran. The halls were chaos. Students shoved past each other, teachers barking orders, but no one knew where to go. Some of the creatures were already inside the school, dragging people into classrooms, tearing them apart in front of us. It wasn't just sea creatures. It wasn't just dinosaurs. These were things that shouldn't exist. Some looked almost human, but stretched, deformed, ancient things with mouths where their stomachs should be and too many joints in their arms. I slipped on blood, caught myself, kept running. The fire alarm was blaring, but there was no fire. Just us, running from something that crawled out of a tear in the world. I don't know where I'm supposed to go, but I know I can't stop. Not now. I sprinted down the hall, slipping past the broken bodies, the screams echoing off the lockers. The creatures were everywhere. Some burst through doors. Others squeezed out of air vents, their slimy, bone-covered limbs skittering along the ceiling. There was no rescue coming. The sirens outside were already silent. They'd been overrun. I ducked into the janitor's closet, slammed the door, pressed my back against it as something heavy stomped past. My chest heaved. My hands shook. I wasn't ready to die here. Couldn't. Then I remembered Jake, my best friend. His dad was one of those paranoid types who kept emergency survival kits in his truck, including a shotgun. I texted him fast. Where are you? I know your dad keeps a gun. I'm coming to you. He texted back instantly. South stairwell. Hurry. They're everywhere. I shoved the door open and sprinted, ducking under a swinging claw that scraped the metal locker beside me. I could hear the thing shrieking, its wet feet slapping the ground as it chased me. I slid around the corner, crashed into Jake, who was holding his dad's shotgun, his hands trembling but his grip tight. Behind me, that humanoid thing rounded the corner, its long arms dragging across the walls, its mouth split vertically up its face, lined with jagged teeth. Jake fired. The blast echoed so loud it hurt my ears. And the creature, it stumbled back, screeching as chunks of its body blew off, sizzling where the pellets tore through its skin. It thrashed, convulsed, then collapsed in a puddle of dark, steaming blood. We stared at it, panting. Jake whispered, "It worked." I whispered back, They can bleed. I grabbed a fire axe off the wall. Jake reloaded. We didn't run this time. We fought our way through the halls, blasting the smaller ones, hacking through the twisted humanoids that tried to pull us apart. Every time the gun fired, it burned them. The scent of their scorched flesh filled the air. The school was a war zone. We weren't the only ones fighting. Some teachers found old rifles from the ROTC office. One of the security guards had a sidearm. Gunfire echoed everywhere. When the creatures dropped, they melted, their bodies collapsing into sludge, but not like acid. It was more like their forms couldn't hold together once the gunpowder hit them. But there were so many. Too many. The intercom crackled again. "This is Principal Mays. All survivors, make your way to the gymnasium. We're making a stand there. If you have any weapons, bring them. Their weakness is gunpowder. Conventional guns can kill them. Repeat, gunpowder kills them." I looked at Jake. "We have to move." He nodded, racking the shotgun. "Let's kill these things." We ran toward the gym. Through the shattered halls, through the pools of blood and bodies, through the nightmare that crawled out of the rift. And we weren't going to die quietly. By the time we reached the gym, the survivors had barricaded the doors with tables, chairs, and overturned bleachers. Gunshots echoed outside the walls, short, sharp bursts, followed by guttural roars and bone-crunching impacts. Inside, it was a desperate scene. Some students were loading magazines with trembling hands. Teachers barked orders, dragging out old ROTC rifles, even fireworks and homemade explosives from the chemistry lab. One kid was duct taping bullets to a fire extinguisher like he was about to throw it like a grenade. Principal Mays stood on the bleachers. His white shirt was covered in blood. Not his. He clutched a hunting rifle like he'd used it before. "Listen up," he shouted. "These things bleed, and they die when hit with gunpowder. It's our only advantage. We hold this gym or we die trying." The walls shuddered. Something slammed into the doors, hard. Another hit. The barricades rattled. I looked at Jake. He handed me a revolver, his last spare. "Let's not die here," he said. The doors exploded inward. A massive humanoid creature, at least 12 feet tall, forced its way through. Its skin sagged off its bones like rotted tarp, and its head split in half vertically, revealing rows of bone-like pincers snapping wildly. It wasn't alone. Dozens of them poured into the gym, crawling on all fours, slithering across the ceiling, sprinting across the floor. "Fire!" Principal Mays roared. The gym filled with thunder. Gunshots cracked, echoing like constant explosions. I fired into the nearest creature's chest. It staggered but kept coming. I fired again. Its torso exploded, its body melting into black sludge. Jake blew apart another one's head. One of the teachers tossed a homemade pipe bomb into a cluster of the things. It detonated with a brutal blast, sending shrapnel tearing through their bodies. The creatures screamed, twisting in on themselves, melting, burning. But they kept coming. We dropped them by the dozens, but for every one that died, 2 more crawled through the shattered doors. People were being torn apart all around me, ripped from behind the barricades, dragged into the mob, their screams choking into silence. Blood soaked the gym floor. Shells littered the ground. The air was thick with smoke and the sour stench of burning flesh. I saw Principal Mays fire until his rifle clicked empty. He charged forward, swinging it like a bat until one of the creatures ripped him apart in front of us. We couldn't hold it. Not like this. Jake grabbed my arm. "There's a way out through the back. Emergency exit. Come on." I fired my last bullet into a charging beast's eye, and we bolted, shoving through panicked students, through broken tables, through falling bodies. We crashed through the emergency exit and sprinted across the flooded field outside. The sky was blood red. In the distance, the rift pulsed like a glowing wound in the sky, monsters still pouring out of it. This wasn't just our school. It wasn't just our town. This was happening everywhere. We weren't going to stop it, but maybe we could survive it. For now, we ran until our legs burned, until the school was just smoke and screams behind us. Jake's breathing was ragged, but he didn't stop. Neither did I. The emergency broadcast was still blaring from the sirens across the city. Emergency alert. Prehistoric entities have breached containment. Seek shelter. Use gunpowder-based weapons. Do not engage without protection. Avoid coastal and flooded areas. This is a nationwide event. We reached the edge of town, climbing onto an overpass. That's when we saw it. The city was gone. Not destroyed, flooded. Ancient sea monsters crawled through the streets. Massive, scaled things with glowing eyes and bone-plated limbs. Humanoid figures prowled the rooftops, tall, deformed things with backward-bending knees and split jaws. The rift hovered above the city like a second sun, pulsing, feeding, pouring more of them out. It wasn't just sea creatures. It wasn't just ancient beasts. Some of the things looked wrong, like versions of us. Human faces stretched over reptilian bodies, mouths on their hands, eyes blinking from their stomachs. "What do we do now?" Jake whispered. I checked the revolver, empty. I gripped the fire axe tighter. A truck skidded to a stop behind us. The door flew open. A soldier in soaked camo waved us in. "Get in now. They're pulling out. They've lost control of the city." We didn't hesitate. We jumped in. Inside were other survivors, bloodied, silent, wide-eyed. The soldier slammed the door and the truck roared down the highway. "We're headed to Fort Dalton," he said. "It's one of the last secure zones. They're bringing in explosives. Big ones. If we can't seal the rift, they're planning to bomb the entire city." Jake's voice cracked. "What about the people still inside?" The soldier didn't answer. He just gripped his rifle tighter. And I realized something. The creatures weren't chasing the truck. They weren't chasing us at all. They were spreading, looking for something, like they were searching for something specific. And I couldn't shake this feeling. They knew where we were going. The truck barreled through abandoned roads. Everywhere we passed was wreckage. Cars flipped, buildings flooded, creatures crawling through the streets, tearing apart anything left alive. The soldier driving said nothing, just tightened his grip on the wheel like if he stopped, he'd fall apart. We reached Fort Dalton just after sundown. It was surrounded by makeshift barricades, sandbags, and soldiers armed to the teeth. Explosions thundered in the distance. They let us through fast, too fast. Inside the base, it almost felt safe. People were being armed, patched up, organized into defense teams. The smell of gunpowder hung thick in the air. Jake and I were handed fresh ammo and ordered to the briefing tent. That's where we met Colonel Briggs. Hard stare, no patience. He slammed his fist on the table covered in maps and photos. "This isn't isolated. These rifts are opening all over the world. We believe they're not just random tears. We believe something sent them." Jake swallowed. "What does that mean?" Briggs leaned in. "We've seen creatures that don't match any known prehistoric record. Some of them resemble us, almost perfectly, but they're not human." I felt ice crawl up my spine. "We saw them in the city," I whispered. "Some of them looked like people. Wrong, but close." Briggs' jaw clenched. "We think they can learn. They can observe, mimic. We don't know how perfect they can get, but there have already been incidents." That's when the alarms blared. "Breach! Breach inside the base!" We sprinted out of the tent as soldiers rushed past us, guns raised, panic in their eyes. Gunfire erupted near the north wall. The creatures were inside already, but they didn't crash through the gates. They walked in. One of the medics, someone we passed just minutes ago, split apart, their skin peeling away as a creature unfolded from inside, its jagged limbs snapping out of what had looked like a human body. It wasn't just about ancient monsters anymore. Some of them could be us. Soldiers opened fire, blasting apart the creature's head. But two more emerged from the tents, their disguise shedding off like wet clothes. People were screaming. The base wasn't secure. Nowhere was. Briggs fired his pistol and dragged us toward an armored truck. "You two are coming with me," he barked. "We have a chance to close the rift, but only if we move now." Jake's voice cracked. "How? How do we close it?" Briggs shoved ammo into our hands. "We're going to blow it back to hell. The base was falling apart around us. Gunfire, explosions, creatures bursting from the inside out. Some of the people we'd trusted were never people to begin with, and now we're heading back toward the rift, into the heart of it. We're either going to close it, or we're going to die in the middle of something much bigger than we ever understood. We didn't have time to second-guess it. Briggs slammed the truck into gear, tires screeching as we tore out of the base. Gunfire and screams fading behind us. The plan was simple. Drive straight into the city. Plant the bomb at the base of the rift. Blow it. Seal the tear. Except nothing about this was simple. The creatures owned the streets now. Massive sea monsters coiled around buildings, tearing them down like paper. Humanoid figures with split jaws and hollow eyes prowled the rooftops. Smaller, spider-like ones skittered through the wreckage, sniffing the air like they could smell us coming. Briggs loaded the detonator into my hand. You get this close enough to the rift center, you press that button. It'll drop the whole block into the ocean. Jake glanced at him. What about us? Briggs didn't answer. He just floored the gas. We rammed through the wreckage, swerving around flipped buses and crumbling buildings, the rift pulsing brighter the closer we got. The sky above it twisted like something alive. When we hit the city center, the truck couldn't go any farther. The streets were flooded, blocked by the remains of collapsed towers and smashed cars. Briggs grabbed his rifle. This is it. We go on foot. Creatures crawled out from every direction. We ran, blasting anything that moved, tearing through them with shotgun blasts and rifle fire. Some of them melted when the bullets tore through them. Some of them didn't even care, charging until we split their skulls open with the fire axe. Jake was yelling. I was yelling. The whole world was on fire. The closer we got to the rift, the heavier the air felt, like the ground itself was vibrating beneath us. One of the giant humanoid beasts dropped down in front of us, jaws wide. Briggs unloaded half a magazine into its chest, then screamed at me. Go! Now! I ran straight toward the rift as the sky above twisted, as ancient monsters clawed their way through the opening. I reached the center, held the detonator tight, turned around. Briggs was gone. Jake was limping toward me, blood soaking his side. I screamed over the roar of the creatures. This is it. He nodded, weak but smiling. Blow it to hell. I pressed the button. The explosion ripped through the streets. A violent wave of fire and shattered earth, buildings collapsing into the sea. The rift collapsed in on itself, folding like torn skin being stitched shut. The shockwave threw me backward. Water crashed over the ruins, dragging debris and monster carcasses into the crater. When I finally opened my eyes, it was silent. The rift was gone. The sky was clear. Jake coughed beside me, barely conscious. We did it. I nodded. But deep inside, something told me this wasn't over. The rift might be closed, but something made it. And maybe, just maybe, they can always tear another one open.